Hello, in today's video I'm going to talk about Angular host binding and host listener. In a web application, a lot of times you need to define some custom behavior for a host, such as an HTML template or an existing HTML tag. For example, you want to drag and drop some files to be uploaded to a server, and you may need to implement this drag and drop upload feature 5 different times for different files in your application. The best solution is to define this kind of custom behavior in a directive, and you can implement the same directive in 5 different components or HTML tags, so you don't have to rewrite the same code 5 times. That's the beautiful part of implementing directives in an Angular component. Now, here I have an example. We have 2 input boxes. If I mouse over and mouse away, something happens. These are the custom behavior. First, the class changed from red to blue and blue to red as I mouse over and away. And the second, the text toggles between welcome to Massachusetts and hello world as I mouse over and mouse away. And this box below exhibits exactly the same behavior. So I have defined some custom behavior on a host. Here, a host is input tag, and I applied the same behavior twice. Now let's take a look at the source code. It's very easy. So here I have a custom component, and in the template I have 2 input boxes, and I also defined the classes red text and blue text, class red, class blue. And if you take a look at the HTML, the classes are not implemented. They are implemented through this appdnd directive. So this appdnd directive modifies the behavior of the input boxes. So when I mouse over and mouse away, the text color changes, the classes are being applied, and the value of the input box changes. Now let's take a look at appdnd directive. It uses host binding and the host listener. The host binding, what does it do? It creates a two-way binding between a local property, here it's called a message, and the host property, which is the value. So in the host, the input box, it has a value property. And whenever you change the value property, the text displayed in the input box changes. And through host binding, I have created two-way data binding between the value property of the input box and the local variable or local property called message in this DND directive. If you look at the syntax, it's easy to see that the host binding is a decorator. It takes some arguments. The first argument is a property from the host. Here, the host is the input tag. The input tag has many properties, and one of them is called a value. So this host binding binds or creates a two-way binding between the value property and the message. And the host listener, the host binding can also be applied to classes here, right? The host listener creates actually it's not creates, it's writes some code that's executed when an event happens on the host. So an HTML element or tag has mouse over, mouse away, drag, drop, all kinds of click, all kinds of events. And this directive host listener associates the mouse over events and mouse out events with some code. So whenever I mouse over the host, whenever I mouse over this input box, some codes defined here gets executed. So when I mouse over, this message local property is changed to welcome to Massachusetts, and here through this host binding, the message is bound to the input value property. So whenever I mouse over, the input value is changed from nothing or whatever it was before to welcome to Massachusetts. So here, whenever I mouse over, welcome to Massachusetts. Whenever I mouse away, hello world. Here, mouse out is associated with these codes, hello world, and the style change. So that is basically host binding and a host listener. Using host binding, you create a two-way binding between your directive's local property to a property on the host. Here, the value property and a class property. Yeah. The host listener executes some code whenever some event happens on the host, like mouse over. And of course, because they are defined in a directive, you can implement the same directive as many times as you want. Here we implement the appdnd directive twice in two different input boxes. You can obviously define your directive in a module and export this directive, and whoever imports the directive can have this custom behavior. So you can apply the same directive in different modules, different components, different HTML tags. Okay, that's my video. Thank you